that are on the agenda. The first is traffic. So we do have members of the Radnor Police Force here. We have Superintendent Flanagan as well as some highway patrolmen. And I get many calls about traffic and traffic issues. So I'm going to have them talk a little bit about traffic first, and then we can go into the Garrett Hill overlay and what's going on there. So I will start with saying, first of all, thank you, Chief, for being here. I'd like to thank Ian Myers, who is doing the Zoom. He got everybody up on Zoom. These are definitely strange times, and the fact that we can do this virtually, I think, is very, very important. It's kind of outside the box. It is, I guess, a little bit on the fly, but as long as everybody can participate and everybody's voice can be heard and there's transparency, that's the most important thing. So I would like to just now go into the traffic, and we also have our manager, Bill White, here as well. So the traffic issues that I get many calls about are obviously speeding. The hot points are areas in Conestoga Village, Lowry's Lane, even on Rockingham, Conestoga, and then to add an extra layer on this, we have the road, the underpass, which is out. We have the underpass, which is out, and that is adding definitely issues to our business district, and people are using through streets for detours, such as Garrett Avenue, where you can't make a left onto Lancaster, and that's definitely going to be some safety issues. So if I could ask the chief to talk about ways how we can help mitigate some of these traffic issues. I know that residents have brought petitions or are bringing petitions. They come to staff traffic and talk to you about that. So you know the hot spots as well as me. If you can just speak to them and ways where we can help make the community safer.
Thank you, Commissioner Farhi. I'm going to take my mask down. We have the dividers up. First of all, thank you, everybody, for having us into your homes. I have a team here to help answer some of the questions. We knew they were going to be traffic-related. Before we go into that, I would just simply like to say thank you. I'd like to say thank you to all those who are putting up with some road detours. There's also a lot of construction related to Lancaster Avenue and County Line Road that is increasing traffic, frustrations, and you're noticing a lot more activity in your neighborhood. So thank you for putting up with it. We know it is a tough time. We have COVID with us, had a lot of other activities, schools back, so it is affecting many different nuances to our community, especially in Ward 7 as well. I'd like to break down a couple things in reference to traffic, and I have my traffic team here to talk about specificity of individual streets. Before we paint with too broad a brush, we did talk about the construction. Some of it Radnor Township is a part of and manages under the authority of Mr. White, our Township Engineer Steve Norsini, and our Highway Patrol Unit. And then some of it's things that the state does and is outside of our control, and actually it's their roads, and they can give permits and permission sometimes without even notifying us. We do appreciate the state for doing infrastructure improvements and other things, but there are things that Radnor Township can control, and then there's things that we can't control because we don't have total authority over every roadway. The detour, we've spent a week of fine-tuning. I'd like to thank especially Engineer Steve Norsini and the Highway Patrol Unit for trying to make adjustments, signage changes. If you notice, we even put our signboard up to help the local businesses be able to promote themselves, and I appreciate Mr. White for giving us that authority to do it. Even on a weekend, the sign was put up to try and address those problems. There's sort of a general problem, if you will. It's affecting a bunch of different streets. If we move away from some of the activity of construction, COVID, other things, we could have a street that has speeding, people running a stop sign. That's where an individual street should make contact with Sergeant Mark Stanson, our Highway Patrol Unit. This group meets monthly with our Township Engineer, our Public Works, our Parking, and a whole team of people to go over all the issues in the community, and then we try and come up with best practices, make changes, or make recommendations for an ordinance change to the Board of Commissioners through the monthly staff traffic report, which is approved by all the commissioners each month once the minutes are completed. So there's a couple different things going on. I'm sure there's some specific questions, so I'll stop there and see if you want more information.
That's perfect. Are there some ways to help, I guess, like speed bumps? I know that I get calls a lot. It comes where it's a petition. Can you just speak to that, or?
There is a process for traffic calming.
Yeah.
Speed humps or speed tables, such as Lowry's Lane, are one of those in our toolbox that can be utilized. With that being said, there is a very specific criteria which you can find in our ordinance book, and I'll have Sergeant Stanton go over the particulars of what that means. But what we'd like to do is not have people set on just one idea. We'd like you to approach us, have that team approach the problem, take a look. We do data, we do speed surveys, we look at crash history, and a multitude of other things to try and take care of the problem before we physically alter any street or add signage or anything else that may cause unnecessary issue. Because just like one person may want a speed hump, there may be 5 who don't. So those are one item in our toolbox that we utilize. And then there's some streets and some curves and some hills or grades that are not permitted to have them. But if you would like, we can review that, and I'll have Sergeant Stanton go over the specific criteria of what that means when you do it.
Well, this is great. If anyone here, I'm going to open this up to questions, but if they do have questions, if Sergeant Stanton, if you wouldn't mind having them email you directly, would that be a good way to get the ball rolling on some of their questions?
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct.
Okay, and then they can also come to the staff traffic meeting and do that as well. So, all right, so I'm going to open it up to some questions with traffic. So what I would like to do is alternate between people in the room as well as people at home on Zoom. But before I do that, again, I just want to thank all of you, the police. You guys are great. You keep us safe. And thank you again for being here. So does anyone in this audience have any comments or questions about speed and traffic safety? So actually, if you want, if you're going to speak, Kim, if you could just come up and just state your name and then speak in this microphone here.
So the tunnel is going to be closed for a month now. Do you have any plans to do speed traps on Garrett Avenue?
I was Kim Engelhardt. I'd like to first acknowledge her as a past class lieutenant of the Radnor Citizens Police Academy. So she knows her way around the room here, and she's putting us on the carpet. Specifically, we never run speed traps, as you know from our class. We will do speed enforcement if warranted. As you know, we have to do it 11 miles an hour over the posted speed limit unless there's some type of other traffic violation. We are planning on putting out 2 different speed measures, which Officer Ken Pyree, Sergeant Mark Stanson from the Highway Patrol Unit are going to be monitoring. I don't know if you've seen some police cars moving in and out and staying on the street. That will be part of our strategy to do that. I advised the township manager that we wanted to give everybody one chance for 1 week. During this week, we've been very busy modifying signage with Steve Norsini, extra barricades from the Public Works, really trying to nail down sort of the streetscape, and now we can start branching out and handling this for roughly the next 5 weeks. Officer McHale, who's our social media officer, puts out our public information on the police side only, is also putting out information, and we'll do some of that. That has a limited effect, but we will try all avenues to do that. And as you see, Mr. White is sitting there. We're keeping constant contact with him regarding the issue. So you will see some of that, and if it does come down to speed, we absolutely will be there to enforce through normal ways.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone at Zoom, I guess you can do a hand raise, want to speak about traffic? Okay. Patty and Rick Barker, let me unmute you. All right. Are you still muted, or can you talk, or can we hear?
Can you hear me, Sean?
Yep, I can hear you, yep.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I think we're good.
It is very difficult to hear anyone other than you. It sounds like you're underwater. So Chief Flanagan, and I guess it was Kim, we didn't really hear anything that they said. So I'm wondering if there's a way that whoever is speaking could come directly up to the microphone that you're speaking into, because we can hear you very clearly, but not anyone else.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, if Chief Flanagan, I'll get out of the way if you can, I guess Kim asked if there's going to be any speed traps, and if, Chief, if you could just kind of review your answer.
Yes, just to let everybody know, I'll give a quick answer. We don't do speed traps ever in the township. We enforce speeding violations. We have a couple of strategies that we're going to employ now that we spent a week sort of adjusting the hardscape of signage, the signboard and other blockades to make it as safe as possible. Now we're going to focus on the residents who are seeing different travel through their respective neighborhoods because of this. There is also other construction. I don't want it to all be blamed on the Conestoga Road Tunnel, but we believe that's the biggest single factor in the traffic increase.
Is there anybody else that would like to, okay, Mr. Simmons?
Hey everyone, I live on Garrett Avenue, and I noticed there's a lot of speeding going through down Garrett Avenue. But the one thing I noticed is when they redid the speed humps, on the one side coming in from Lancaster Avenue going towards Conestoga, there's only one arrow painted on the speed hump on the right side, and that's usually where a car is parked over it. So a lot of people don't even see the speed humps, and they're just literally flying at about 40, 45 miles an hour there. I mean, it is kind of fun to watch, like, you know, people bottom out and break their oil pans, but, you know, at the same time, it's also like, eventually it creates a clog of traffic because Garrett Avenue is a big cut through. And when, especially early in the mornings, like when it builds up with like the trash truck comes through and then people start using it as a cut through, they're starting to honk at like 8 a.m. and stuff like that. And it creates a backup on top, not just the slow traffic, but the high-speed traffic. People aren't even seeing those speed bumps. But I don't know if they're going to address like painting an extra arrow on the other side, but that might help out a little bit.
Paint is actually one thing that's very easy for us to do. So we will have, Mr. White gave me the nod, we're going to have Public Works out tomorrow. We'll investigate the striping, make sure it's properly marked, and we'll get on top of that as soon as possible, and we'll go from there.
And then I'll just add that too. In my most recent newsletter, we did talk about maybe doing some more lines, striping of the roads. It's something that I will talk with the manager, we'll talk with the police department, we'll talk with the engineer about putting slow, children, speed limit 25. It may slow down some traffic, or some neighbors may say, I don't want my street painted with a slow sign. So that's going to be up to the neighbors. That will be up to the neighbors to decide, but it's just an idea, and I think that we need to think outside the box because we live in these little neighborhoods, and people, you know, you have one bad actor who's going to do, you know, 45, 50 on a street that's 15 or really 25 miles an hour. It's very frightening when you have small kids. I see Roberta Winters has a question. All right, hold on, one second.
I was also going to ask Sean, am I unmuted?
No, I think you're good.
Okay. I was going to ask, in addition to the painting, is it possible to have signage that this is not a two-way street? You really can't get two cars going up and down that street, particularly if one is oversized or it's a trash truck. So it's really like a 1.5 lane road. And I'm wondering if there could be some signs that would say limited two-way traffic or something like that.
So I'll have the. Okay. So sure, that's definitely something that Chief Flanagan, who said that's something that he will look into, and we can look into look into that, because it is tight, especially when you have oversized trucks and vehicles going down there. Okay, is there any more issues with traffic before we get to the good stuff, which is the overlay? Okay. Sure. Okay. So the township manager, Bill White, who, thank you for being here. Thank you for, while you're here, let me give you a big heads up. Thank you and your staff, Molly Gallagher, Peggy Hagan, for sending out letters, sending out emails, putting stuff on the internet, on your webpage, making this as transparent as possible. So I would like to thank you and your office for doing that. But what Mr. White said is, when there's more cars on the road, sometimes people have to drive slower. I agree. But the people that don't usually tend to clear off a side view mirror at times. So, yeah, we see it I lived on Lowry, so I saw that a bunch of times as well. All right, any more questions when it comes to traffic? Okay. So I guess the big reason why we're here, and I think for the police, I think we're pretty much good. Just one moment, and Chief Flanagan has something.
Just sometimes these meetings, it seems like it's done and over. We're very cognizant to your concerns about the traffic and the effect of the tunnel closure and the other things. So please stay in touch with us. Don't give up. Each problem, don't overgeneralize. Tell us where the direct issue is and the time. Get in touch with us. You can email myself, call 911, of course, and email Sergeant Stanson. We'll have the unit up there. We stay in touch with the manager and Commissioner Farhi, so just don't give up. I know there's some frustrations. We'll get through it before long. It'll be over, and hopefully things will go back to normal. Just one other comment. It was a big honor for the Radnor Township Police to be associated with the first annual Garrett Hill Block Party, and I would like to acknowledge Commissioner Farhi for doing that, the businesses, I think the Mitchells, all the other people who helped out, and the community, most importantly, you guys came out. We did it safely, responsibly with the pandemic, and I think there was a lot of positive results. So it was an honor for my team to be there, and I look forward to the second annual. So I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, thank you, and my apologies for not thanking you again for that, Chief. It was a wonderful day. The one other thing that I do want to say is whenever you are in doubt, call 911. If you see someone driving through your neighborhood like a madman, call 911. Just get it documented. So if they can find who this person is, they can do something about it, or at least it's in their wheelhouse. Email me or email Superintendent Flanagan directly. I will say that he is extremely, extremely responsive. So as busy as he is, and if he's not saving Radnor, he's a firefighter and doing block parties, he will get back to you or me with an answer, or look into it to try to get an answer to you. So once again, my hat goes off to our Radnor Police Force. They're wonderful. They're great. They keep us safe. And just thank you. I don't know what else to say except thank you. With all that said, now I think we are going to go on to the fun stuff, which is the Garrett Hill overlay. And this is a conversation. A lot of people don't believe that this is a conversation, but this is just something that we need to discuss. People have reached out to me that live in the overlay, as well as some business owners, where there are certain issues that after 12 years, I believe, they want to look into. The two items that have been brought to my attention, first is the outdoor dining, and second would be the height restrictions on the south part of Garrett Avenue. So I know that we're going to hear from both sides. And it's important to have a conversation and to go back and forth and to be respectful. So that's kind of what I have to say. I do want to hear what everyone has to say. So I do want to alternate between, there's only 4 people in the room. There's about maybe 15 people on Zoom. So I'm just going to go around the Zoom order, and just ask everyone to speak. Again, please be, I don't want to say respectful with the time, but, if you have your bullet points and your points ready to go, that would help. So with that being said, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to go first? Okay, Ms. Winters. One sec.
I'm unmuted.
Yep, you're unmuted.
Okay. I live at 326 Williams Road in Rosemont, and I'm going to read my comments in the interest of time. Community gatherings are an important way to raise evolving issues, dispel rumors, and gather input for making decisions in the public interest. It is regrettable that the current pandemic makes it difficult for us to communicate easily in a face-to-face manner. We know that words alone fail to deliver messages. Meaning is lost in the absence of body language and tone of voice. Written comments are often insufficient, and Zoom has its limitations. Given these shortcomings, however, I'll speak on 3 issues: the outdoor dining, the height restrictions, and the amending of the Garrett Hill Overlay District. First, I'd like to address outdoor dining. COVID-19 has created new realities in Garrett Hill and beyond. We understand accommodations have been made to help restaurant owners during this current pandemic. They can be extended. However, we should not make any changes permanent because we cannot assess the real impact. Student patronage of our bars and bistros has been curtailed as Villanova has sought to contain the virus. The Caritas commitment has prompted students to pledge that they will modify behaviors. These behaviors include wearing masks, social distancing, and avoiding unnecessary travel, including off campus. We cannot judge the impact of outdoor dining in Garrett Hill without having evaluated the all-important inclusion of students. Thus, to provide outdoor dining as a permanent option is like me sitting in a movie behind a row of tall people. You only get part of the picture, and I'm very short. Second, based on my involvement with the Garrett Hill Overlay District process, height restrictions were included for good reasons. First, there is the aesthetic value one feels when driving or walking down a narrow street without sensing you're hemmed in like a tunnel. Most importantly, however, height restrictions help control density in the most densely populated area of the township. 3-story buildings lend themselves to 3 different apartment options in a single structure. If such structure has the potential for 6 or more people, that can translate into 6 or more cars in the neighborhood. This aggravates the existing challenges for parking and traffic in our tight community. Given stormwater issues, more pavement required for more parking creates more negative consequences. While water may not bother those of us on top of the hill, Radnor residents in the 7th Ward will not be pleased by additional runoff, all too frequent in the 100-year floods. Sump pumps and drainage systems are not quick fixes, nor are they always effective solutions. Third, my final and most significant challenge is for all of us to stop looking at piecemeal changes in land use in Radnor Township. It is long overdue for Radnor to have a comprehensive land use plan. What happens in Garrett Hill does not stay in Garrett Hill, just as what happens in Stratford or in St. David's is not isolated to a 1-block area. Change impacts the quality of life of all residents who travel our roads and shop in our neighborhoods. Delaware County 2035 is a policy guide for land use decisions in the county. We paid for it. We should use it. It is a great place to begin our own comprehensive plan. Our elected and appointed officials need to work smarter rather than harder with a clear framework for today and tomorrow. In summary, extended outdoor dining, extend it, but don't make it permanent. Keep height restrictions to help maintain the quality of life and avoid additional parking and traffic problems. And get a comprehensive land use plan and stop nickeling and diming Radnor's most valuable asset and resource, our land. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom would like to speak? Just raise your hand. Okay, anybody in the audience here would like to speak? Oh, who raised their hand? Okay, just one moment. I think you're on, Angie.
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear? Okay, good. I appreciate the time. I'll be very quick. I wasn't able to attend the meeting, and I just have a few comments only about the outside dining thing. As most people know, my husband and I own 2 restaurants in Garrett Hill, significantly affected by the outside dining regulation. We've been proactive on this change in the ordinance for years. This pandemic has been very stressful on everyone, and we've been very fortunate that there's been some changes to allow us to make some changes, and we've been doing everything we can to try to adhere to the stipulations of the township, stay very adhered to the community, so we're not disruptive, and we're in timeframes of closing. Just appealing to everyone, just we're doing the best we can, and we really want to see if this can be set into a permanent status, only because this is we're within time frames. We want to be friendly with community, but we just need to be competitive and just have something that people want. We have not heard any issues from the community or the patrons that this has been an issue since we've started it. We've trying to just keep going with it. We're just hoping that there's some changes and some laxed regulations so we can pursue forward. And we're very amenable to if we can find a way to work with the community, especially the people that are directly affected and can hear any kind of noise emanating from it, which I've not heard there's anybody. But we're open, we want to talk about it, but we definitely want to be supportive that we hear the community's concerns, and we want to participate and just see what we can do to work together.
All right, thank you, Angie. And just to my knowledge, and I've spoken to Superintendent Flanagan as well as Manager White, there have not been any noise violations or bad behavior from the tent that is up. So there have been none that have been reported. All right, just one moment. Roberto, I'm going to try to get everyone to speak before we go around twice. Would anyone else like to come up and speak? Okay, Mr. Joseph? And I'm just going to ask everybody if we can try to keep our comments under 5 minutes, at least maybe initially. If people have prepared comments, we'll try to keep them at 5 minutes. And then if you're going to come speak again, if you want to rebut something, maybe keep it to, or rebut or add something on, you keep it to about 2 minutes. Okay? Mr. Joseph?
Good evening. I'm Sumant Joseph. I live at 117 Garrett Avenue since 2004. I've owned my own home since then. I basically went out and got signatures just to see the support of people in the overlay regarding both the outdoor dining, which we are all for, and I got just in 1 hour, I got 17 people, which is about 90% of the people affected by this overlay. The first one, I got the signatures. It says, "We, the undersigned, are requesting a change to the Garrett Hill overlay to allow limited outdoor commercial dining, which would include outdoor dining which could take place from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. By signing, I attest that I live within 500 feet of the Garrett Hill Commercial District and have no objection to modify the ordinance." We also got a couple of business owners in here on Garrett Ave, on Conestoga as well, to sign for this. So we're actually all in support of this too. In reference to the zoning, we're really just, this is what I got, the same signatures, and it says this: "We, the undersigned, are residents and or property owners who reside in the Garrett Hill Overlay District. We have been negatively affected by the Garrett Hill zoning ordinance. The zoning was proposed and sought by a group of community members who most of all did not live or own property or rent in Garrett Hill Overlay. Since the implementation of the zoning restriction, property owners and all those who reside in the Garrett Hill Overlay have been disenfranchised both economically and through property rights. We, the undersigned, believe the best way to end the disenfranchisement is to give the same property rights in regards to height as those property owners who live on the north side of Garrett Avenue itself or anywhere else in the Garrett Hill. We are asking for an easing of the height restriction from 30 feet to 35 feet to be consistent with the height in all other parts of Garrett Hill. Part of this thing is, like, when this zoning came about, it was erected by people, like I said, who did not own property in our overlay or even live in our overlay. And, you know, when Roberta Winters says, for example, she says, they want to see how she's telling us how she wants to see Garrett Avenue, but she doesn't even live in our overlay. None of these people, none of their properties get affected. Only for some reason, 15 or 17 of our properties, they decided to take away our C1 commercial and come up with this Garrett Hill zoning. To me, that's spot zoning. And then when Rick and Patty Barker say they represent us, they've never spoken to any of the property owners. And how do you represent people when you don't even own property in Radnor Township? I mean, I believe Rick's building a house in the eastern shore of Maryland for the past 10 years. How does someone like that represent our demographic of people? And how does only restricting 17 homes in the middle of Garrett Avenue and then laxing all the other properties on the either side of our homes, how does that it create a gradual anything? So to me, it doesn't make sense at all. I think it would, if we even just got rid of this overlay district, that would be the real solution, because then you wouldn't have any of these people sitting here arguing and coming up with reasons of why other people's properties should be downzoned. Now, how do I know the value of my property is less? Because I actually went in for a tax reassessment because it said my taxes were supposed to double, my property taxes. So I only had like 3 minutes to talk with 3 of the representatives there at Delaware County. And they asked me to explain why my property is worth less than my neighbors. And I said, simple, because my neighbors on one side are R5, and they don't have a 30-foot height restriction, and we got our C1 commercial taken away, and my neighbors on the other side of me all have a mixed use. And that means they have commercial first floor, residential second and third. But us, our 17 homes, we pretty much have nothing, and we're worth less as a result too. So why should we be paying the same taxes as everybody else? Delaware County agreed. So that in itself says that if my neighbor, if I'm even paying the similar taxes to my neighbor, and say, for example, someone comes up to my neighbor with mixed use and says, I'll buy your property for $700,000, but then they come up to me or my neighbor in my overlay and says, I'll buy yours for $375 because you're Garrett Hill neighborhood. You're not mixed use. You're not R5. So automatically, it's not that I'm trying to sell my property. It's the fact that I live on the same street as my neighbors, and I want to have my property to have the same rights that I bought it with, C1 commercial or equivalent, at least this 35-foot height restriction. It doesn't make sense. There's some other reasoning behind this, because with a normal planning commission, no one, even Delaware County, disagreed with this and thought this whole initially when the zoning came out that it was just ridiculous. The reasons why it got passed, well, we had a person who was Catherine Bogosian, who was on the zoning board here and on the Delaware County Planning Commission. She walked it through. The Garrett Hill Garrett Hill Coalition actually mentioned her name in the last pre-COVID thing, saying that she assisted them in this. I mean, she basically walked them through, and to me, that just seems like a big conflict of interest. You had a person on the Delaware Planning Commission and the Radnor Zoning Board help with create and passing the zoning without any opposition, and anyone who did oppose, you guys all know what happened. I mean, anonymous police calls to their properties, all sorts of complaints. I mean, for 12 years. But at the end of the day, I just believe that this zoning, at this point, we're just happy. I think all these neighbors, and these are actual people who live in our overlay, are okay with the 35 feet, from going from 30 feet to 35 feet. And another thing to note, most of the houses in the overlay are actually already above 30 feet. So how did you even coming up with 30 feet as a max when the majority of homes are actually above 30 feet to begin with? So that this in itself shows it's poor planning, poor zoning. It doesn't make sense. But at least if you guys can consider this on top of at least, with the pandemic and stuff and with the economy, be able to support our local businesses and being able to have outdoor dining, I think we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Would anyone else in this room like to speak? No? Anyone online? Okay, I see you, Miss Bessioni. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
Okay, thanks,
Sean.
Christina.
I just wanted to make a comment. So I'm Christina Bastiano. I live at 840 Conestoga Road. So I am not far at all from Flippin' Bailey's. And I just wanted to make a comment regarding what Angie said, that I think we should support that business. They've done everything they possibly can. So if they can make some guidance regarding being permanent for outdoor dining, I think we should do everything we can to support them. They've made it through the storms, and we still have a lot more to go, I think. So I think there's, and they're a very community-oriented, company. You don't see that very often, the way they're constantly trying to involve family. I mean, they're not just targeting Villanova students. They are targeting, I have 2 little boys. They're always sitting there trying to target. So I'm just saying I'm very much in support of making that permanent. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
That's
the
it.
comment. I do see anyone. Would anyone else like to go before we go again? That would be Mr. Eli. Can we unmute Mr. Eli? Thank you. Mr. Eli? Okay, guess he's getting his dog. Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
No.
Yeah, I'm a little bit confused about the Garrett Hill Coalition and the whole planning. I understood that went through Delaware County Planning Commission, as well as I think the Radnor zoning. So that seemed to me like a very big effort. A lot of studies were done, a lot of research, a lot of community input.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious as to whether that process, what value that process has now, and why we couldn't apply something similar if it's this important.
Sure. Can I? Do you want my opinion? And there's going to be other people that are going to respond. So, community involvement is without a doubt paramount, and that's what we're doing here. But we've had something for 12 years, give or take. We had community involvement, and we're looking at making some adjustments, some tweaking. We're not trying to get rid of the total overlay. I think we are in a pandemic. I will say that certain businesses will fail. They will die. They will go out of business. We've had Garrett Hill Pizza, which has arguably been closed for years. There's a blip of maybe 6 months when it was open. That locksmith shop and the frame shop, they were for sale and vacant for years. And if we lose anchors like Flippin' Bailey's or the Ale House, I think that would just be tragic. They employ many people in Garrett Hill. They're staples to the community, as we saw with the block party, and they're important for the just for the business taxes. And they need, and from talking with Angie, they need to stay competitive with Wayne. They need to stay competitive with some of the restaurants in Lower Merion. So this is how we have that community involvement, by talking to people, by having people circulate petitions, by really seeing what you guys are saying here, then taking it to the Planning Commission at Radnor, taking it to the Planning Commission in Delaware County, taking it to a community development meeting, and having it come back. This is how a conversation starts. And I don't know what's going to become of it, but I am scared as a not as a commissioner, but as a resident of Garrett Hill, we're going to have a ghost town. We're going to have a ghost town. So, and if we don't proactively try to mix things up and change some things, I think that could happen. And is it Albert Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing a million times and getting the same results? That's what's happening. If we don't change something, we're going to get the same results, and that is businesses that could fail. So that is my concern as a commissioner. To answer your other part of the question, we are going to look at this surveys, and we are going to look at what was in the comprehensive plan, and that's all going to get taken into account. So I hope, okay. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Ms. Winters, you've been patiently waiting. Just one sec. And hold on, just 1 second.
I think she's muted.
Unmute,
Okay, thank you.
sorry. I want to thank Angie and those in the Flippin' Bailey and their neighboring ale house, because I think they have been very community oriented and have done many good things for our 4th of July parade and all the other things that they've been involved in, and we sincerely appreciate those efforts. I would just like to mention, though, the first weekend you were open, guys, I did find some, in the 300 block of Williams, there were some leftover containers of glasses, the plastic mugs that you serve with. And so I went, instead of going to the police or calling to Sean, I just went to the window and I asked them to put an extra trash can out there so people wouldn't take their beverages walking down the street and deposit them on people's lawns. And that has not been a problem since then. So I want to thank you for being responsive. Okay. The second thing I would like to say is, you know, permanent is permanent. And we know Angie is doing a great job, but she could sell that property and there wouldn't be people as kind and considerate as Angie who would be operating that facility. So I think when you live in Garrett Hill, and I've lived here for, you know, I think 40 years now, that we know businesses have come and gone. We've seen them all. And I think it's important to know that permanent is a long time. And I'm certainly more than happy to support this outdoor dining through the COVID and see how things work and see what happens when students come back. But I think permanent is a long time and it's beyond my life expectancy in Radnor. So I would really like to have you extend it, but not make it permanent.
Sure.
That would be my concern. And the second thing I would like to say to the gentleman who felt disenfranchised, I'm really sorry he feels disenfranchised. I find this community to be a very inclusive and welcoming place for all. And those on Garrett Hill, I mean, I've walked up and down that street for 40 years and I, you know, feel a part of that community, even though my house is not in that specific area. And while we recognize your zoning is different, if you want to go back to the way it was previously, I think you would find you would probably be losing things that you did not have with the current zoning requirements. So while you want to have, it's hard to have one thing and not another, and I understand in any kind of situation that's where you're looking at zoning and land rights and land use planning, there's always some benefits and there are always some things that may not be so acceptable to you 10 years later. But if you go back to the way it was, you may find that it was probably even more restrictive to you in some ways. But again, that's where we are now. And I'm glad, Sean, you're having these conversations. I hope they'll be broader and wider. And we thank those who have participated.
Thanks. I just want to touch on one point that you made, Ms. Winters. So you're right, permanent is a long time. And I think that we all know that Garrett Hill is not Wayne, and we're not going to have loud music or any music, you know, without special permission. There would be laws and ordinances and codes that any business owner, whether it's the Mitchells or another restaurant that's there now, or if it gets sold they're going to have to abide by. We have a tremendous police force, great codes. Our engineering is, it's the best. Our manager, we've had great managers. They're the best. They are not going to. No one wants to see Garrett Hill fail, whether it's through abuse of this or not having it. And I think what we need to do is find the best common ground to allow for limited, structured dining. And as what you said, permanent, I get it, but it's working. Right now it is working in the format with COVID. And I don't want to speak for Angie, but it's working. It's working in the sense that I haven't heard any complaints. I haven't heard any complaints from the manager or from the chief of police, who I'm in contact with almost every day or every other day. So I believe, I personally believe, not as a commissioner, but as a resident, it may be time to start looking at the next step, to put this in front of planning, to put this in front of community development, and see what they have to say, and get more ideas and make it inclusive amongst everybody. So that's kind of my opinion on that. So is there anyone else that has something to say? Mr. Joseph, just 2 minutes? Or who's that? Oh, yeah, okay, sorry. So if we can keep this under a minute or two, and just 1 second while I unmute you. There we go. Just ask to unmute, and I'm hitting the button. Okay. I think we're good. Okay.
Sean, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Miss Winters, just a couple things. Gene Mitchell, Angie's.
I thought you were Angie, and I'm like, Angie, your
Angie.
voice changed. Okay.
Yeah, Angie's worker, actually. But no, a couple things. And look, I totally understand your concerns, and what I would suggest is not a indefinite period. I mean, we just went through a situation with the Garrett Hill Ale House and the windows, and I don't know if you know this, but so every 2 years we need to go back to the board and ask to allow the windows to be open, and that cost us probably $5,000 between legal fees and attorney and township fees and other fees that are associated with that. And what I would suggest is that, and I understand your concern about if we sell the property, so maybe it's indefinite, but it's a 2-year revisit, so there's not some indefinite period of time when that happens. In regards to the zoning, we had a meeting with Kevin, right? Kevin, the zoning in Garrett Hill is so restrictive, honestly, that we could not do anything to better the properties because of the setbacks. And I'm not sure if everyone's read the codes there, but the setbacks with the streets and the sidewalks and the plants and everything, I get why it was done, but it's not rational. It's completely impossible to improve that corner. So if we don't do anything to change the zoning, it's going to be the way it is for another 50 years, the way it's been for the last 50 years. So I guess I would just implore that I think we need to think about things in a more progressive manner and think about change going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Joseph?
Hi, guys. Sumant Joseph. So I'm trying to, I want to actually respond to Roberta and Tim and Angie, too, all in one shot here. Mr. Mitchell, you actually brought up a good thing. Concern about it is the setbacks and stuff, too, that were said in all this. But, and Tim, you mentioned something to also, I'm also trying to address, you mentioned that, what about the involvement that was done all these years as well? And, you know, and Roberta, you guys in one of your previous things, you also mentioned bringing up you representing us and you felt you were representing us in our diverse group of people. But if you look at it, you took 17 homes and you said they're diverse. Yes, we're black, white, Asian, everything. But the group that you formed, the Garrett Hill Coalition, is an all-white group. And an all-white group went in and decided to spot zone 17 homes. When you change just 17 homes out of the general demographic of all the homes, and then you also did it on some of the businesses on Conestoga, that's spot zoning. I mean, that's actually illegal. Just because it got passed doesn't make it okay. It just made it legal, but it doesn't make it okay. And if you're saying that you represented us, not one person in that overlay affected the business owners or the residents agreed to any of this. So when you say you're representing us and you want to see things, what I want to ask you is, how come you didn't impose these same zoning rules upon your own properties? Not one of your properties got affected. I just want to ask that too. So if you say we were all involved in this, we weren't. The people who were involved were all people who did not own properties, or properties had properties affected by the zoning. And those, in my opinion, are the people, and actually by law, should have more right of a say, more right. Not people, in the eyes of the law, if you look at it, actually people who don't own property in that township really don't have any say or any, they can have opinions, but they shouldn't be able to affect and change zoning, which somehow it was done 12 years ago. And just because you can say, like, you know, well, yeah, like it's been done for 12 years, we shouldn't change anything. I think that's wrong. I mean, 12 years has happened. Not a lot of these properties have become dilapidated. And my opinion, the reason why you're spot zoning some of these properties is, here's the possibility. Developer comes in and says, oh, these 15 homes, they're worth less. So let's offer them a lot less money than what their neighbors are worth. So it's not that, again, I'm not trying to sell my property, but the fact that I don't have the right to say yes or no for the same value as my neighbors, because you changed the value of my property and you put these restrictions on my property and also the businesses. And like the Mitchell said, with all the setback restrictions, with the lot widths and stuff, it doesn't even make any sense for us to be able to make any improvements to our properties. As for parking, if we were to make a lot of these improvements, we'd be able to put more driveways in. But none of us on our street are actually complaining about parking. It just sounds like that's just another way of reasoning, of saying keep everything, don't change it. But you know, the way the zoning even got passed was far beyond right. But at least now we're not even asking for special consideration. We're just saying we want to be treated the same. At the very least, allow us to have our height restrictions. But we're appealing to the township because obviously the Garrett Hill Coalition really shouldn't have had any weight to begin with. They don't represent anyone in our overlay, and I don't even know they were a group that somehow enabled spot zoning. So that's my opinion on that. There you go. Sure.
Thanks, no problem. Mr. White, would you like to give a couple words? This is the Township Manager, Bill White.
Hey, good evening, everyone. More so in Zoom than in person, but good evening. Thanks for having us. Sean, thanks for the venue and setting this up. Glad to participate. I wanted to jump in now just because I do have to scoot home to a child that's there by themselves. So, which I think happened last time you had a town hall meeting. Tuesday nights at the White House we go a lot of different directions. So, no, not that White House, the one in the 7th Ward. So, just a couple real quick things. Aside from the Garrett Hill zoning issue specifically, township-wide, the board is considering a budget right now. That's up on the website. If you're interested, please go take a look. And then with regard to following up on some of these items with speeding and the speed humps and the painting, we will definitely get going and look at that as quickly as we can. I would echo the sentiment of if there are issues, if you see things that are, speeders, traffic issues, congestion, call 911. I know a lot of times we hear that people don't want to call because they feel like they're bothering the police. That is not the case. The police are here to help regardless of what the issue is. If it's not a police matter, they'll turn it over to the right folks. But the nice thing about the 911 system is it does get documented. And then just lastly, I've sat here through, the hour that we've been going, and I know that this Garrett Hill zoning issue is an intense one, an emotional one. But I think the best way we're going to get to some resolution, and this is coming from a person that doesn't get a vote, is to focus on the zoning itself. Let's not make it personal. If you focus on the zoning, you focus on the laws, you focus on building consensus, as the commissioner identified, the right answer will become obvious, and it'll win the day. When we start, getting a little personal and attacking people for one reason or another, that's usually what we've seen. The train comes off the rails. So I think if we keep it about the issue and about the law and the zoning and what makes sense going forward, not so much perhaps the past, other than understanding what the history is, because that is important anytime you're considering something, changing something. But that's just my plea to everyone. But so far, so good. Good job. I know this is just the beginning of the conversation. So when I get home, I'll jump back on. I'll be on the computer side of this. But I just wanted to pop in real quick, say hi, and thank everyone for a few minutes of your time. And yes, by all means, if you can support the local businesses, please do. They need us more than ever right now. So Garrett Hill folks, absolutely, especially the ones that are in our backyard. We need those folks. So please go buy a couple dinners and make sure they're taken care of. So thank you, everyone.
Just a quick thank you to Bill White for everything that he does. He's also a Ward 7 guy as well. So thank you very much for everything. Oh, okay. All right. Have a good night. Maybe we'll see you on Zoom. Okay, the Barkers.
Can you hear?
Okay. Can you? Nope. I did have it. It takes a quick second. Okay.
Can you hear me
You
now?
good, Rick? Patty?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you all for participating. Let me just start by saying that this process was very, very carefully executed. It involved the township hiring a planner and an architect, appointing Garrett Hillians as a steering committee. It took over 2 years. There were 4 charrettes that were conducted by the planner to help generate a master plan, and from the master plan, the planner wrote the zoning ordinances, and the committee continued to try to accommodate and change the ordinances where necessary to create new property rights for all the properties within the overlay. Okay. The basic long and short of it is none of the lots could be redeveloped except on their existing footprints before the ordinances. Now, almost all the lots and almost all the buildings are entirely in conformity, so there's new by right activity. For instance, on Conestoga Road, okay, the C1, you would have to have a 20-foot, okay, setback for parking access. Now it's 12 feet, okay? Also, without parking access, this is a side yard for detached building. It was 20 feet. Now it's 5 feet, okay? The rear yard is in C1, it was 35 feet or 35% of the lot depth. Now it's 15 feet or 5 feet adjacent to commercial. The building coverage, C1, 25%. Now in the new zoning ordinances, it's 80%. You can develop 80% of your lot, okay? Before, you had to have 100-foot minimum lot width, okay? And now that doesn't exist anymore. As far as impervious goes, an existing C1 in other places in the township, 60% maximum impervious. On Conestoga Road, 95% with the new ordinances, okay? Not only that, you now also are permitted to have mixed use. You don't need to be grandfathered in. So the idea that the setbacks, okay, are more restrictive, okay, is just not reality, okay? There's much greater flexibility and opportunity. All you have to do is read these ordinances. When this first started, Matt Bauman came to the community and he said, it's all about the parking. And when the committee was considering outdoor dining, it was concluded at that time that it would be at the expense of the parking supply. So that and the fact that there didn't seem to be much place for outdoor dining at Garrett Hill, and the standards that we have for outdoor dining in Wayne are not really applicable to Garrett Hill because of the physical arrangement. It was not included. However, I entirely support the idea of having temporary outdoor dining for the restaurants there, because there is right now currently ample parking supply on both properties because of the restrictions involving the maximum occupancy. And that's my personal opinion. But there's been many things that have been said that really are misconceptions, misinformation. But one of the things was that Delco Planning heartily supported this, okay? And it went to our own planning commission, I think 4 times, went to Delco twice. This was a legitimate process, was very carefully considered. I was the chair of the committee. I didn't represent anybody, okay? What we did is we considered all points of view, all stakeholders' points of view. And the businesses were included in the process, and they were actively solicited to have input in the process. And everyone had unlimited opportunity to participate in the process. And ultimately, the committee strived to make Garrett Hill property owners within the overlay better off than they were with existing C1 zoning. And at the same time, there was also much concern in the community about protecting the existing neighborhoods. So the reason why there is a height restriction is basically to help control the density. Density was a great concern at that time of the existing community members. But mixed use was allowed on Conestoga Road and Garrett Avenue. And again, if you would trade your C1 zoning for the Garrett Hill zoning, I think that you'd see that you're very much better off. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't change or improve things. Time moves on. I think also with COVID, things might be very much different in the future. So talking about rezoning in Garrett Hill may be a little premature, but doesn't mean we shouldn't have a conversation about it. So I do appreciate all of that. I just like to say that many things are interrelated and they are very carefully considered. For instance, on Garrett Avenue, in order to maximize the amount of building that could be put on the lots, the setback, the front yard setback was made to fit in with what was existing already. And as Bert said, as you go up, you create a canyon effect. So if in fact there would have been a decision to increase the height, probably would have increased the setback in order to make it still have a sense of openness and preserve the scale. So it was very, very carefully and thoroughly vetted on many, many levels. And it's unfortunate, I think, now that folks are getting the wrong information and instead of understanding what they have to work with now, because it's so much more than anywhere else in the township, any other C1.
Sean, I'd like to add a few comments if I might.
Sure. Just give me one sec, because I'm just looking at the time. So there's two of you, and I think Rick was about 5 minutes or so. So if we can keep it around 5 minutes, and then we can let some other people respond.
I don't plan to talk for very long. I just wanted to say a couple of things. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who's attending. I hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation. I'm hopeful that once the pandemic, or we become more acclimated to how to get together, that there will be a real opportunity for us Garrett Hillians to get together in person the way we did back in 2007 through 2009. However, the main thing I want to say to you is this. Rick and I met with Sean and another commissioner back in June. And at that point in time, we were asked to create a comparison of what the past zoning was, what the current zoning is. So if anyone is interested in receiving that, it's 3 pieces of paper where we do a comparison of each of the 3 Garrett Avenue zoning districts. So the GHGA, GHN, and GHCR, which is Conestoga Road. Very easy to read, but for anyone who really wants to see what was there before, what is there now, and what is C1 or R5, we'd be happy to get it to you. And if that's the case, you can either call me, 610-955-8283, or you can email me, Patty, P-A-T-T-I, .rick, R-I-C-K, 100 @gmail.com. I'd be happy to share this with any of you, just as a point of information, so you have some idea.
Maybe Sean or Bill can, put it
yeah,
up.
anyone that
so
wants.
it's accessible
Sure.
to the community.
Yeah, just
And
one sec, Rick.
it's a
One sec. So if you would like that, and email me, and I will put you in touch with Patty, and Patty can email that. So everyone knows my email and my phone number. Thank you, Patty, for sharing your email. But if you can't find,
That's
1
fine.
hour, 9 minutes in
And-
here, email me, and I'll get that over to you, Patty. Okay, I'm sorry, Rick, if you want to go on.
So Sean, I also thought Rick's idea of, is there a way to put it on the Radnor Township website?
Yeah,
with the community?
I will, sure,
again,
I will do that.
It's a synopsis of the zoning.
Yeah,
Sure,
synopsis
sure,
of the zoning.
I will do that, and,
Anyway, thank you very much.
And again, for instance, on Garrett Avenue, the 60% impervious. You can fill your lot up. R5, 40%.
okay, yeah, no,
So
and
it is.
also, the other thing too is maybe we can print out a couple, and I know we have some slots here in the Township building. I will ask the manager if we can just kind of have them handy, so if you walk in, you can kind of grab it when they talk about like recycling or something else. So let's make that available for everybody. I agree with that. The one
Sean,
question,
one more thing,
Sure.
if I could say one more thing.
absolutely.
Also, the idea that this zoning was generated by us whiteheads, I'm going to call it, who live
Well,
outside of Garrett
careful, Patty,
overlay,
because I have
is
gray hair
not-
myself.
I'm talking about myself. But anyway, wire hair, I've had it since I was 30. Anyway, what I want to say to you is, this was generated by an RFP that was put out by the township. The community had no thoughts or ideas or plans to rezone. happened was the township decided that they were going to rezone Garrett Hill, and 100 Garrett Hillians went to a township meeting and said, "You're not rezoning without our input." That's how it started. It was not initiated by people living outside the overlay. And who decided what the overlay was? Not the community, the township. We did not have any say in what the overlay area was. That was all done by the township. So I'd like to dispel that notion that somehow those of us who live outside the overlay are the ones who step forward. Thank you very much.
Just one point with the outdoor dining, and maybe Angie can correct me if I'm wrong. We're not going to add any seats. If their maximum occupancy is 200, and I don't know what it is, and if they want to have 20 seats outside, that means that they can only have 180 seats inside. So we're not going to add any seats, whatever their parking and table and seating is. I don't believe that's going to change per the code. I could be wrong. I would let Angie. We're not going to add seating unless they're allowed to do it by code when it comes to parking that they have. So am I correct on that? Angie, you're not going to be adding any seating.
No,
Okay.
I challenge Gene. We're not adding any seating, and in fact, I mean, we're restricted because of parking. So no, we're not adding any.
You would
seating
just move some
and,
around, and if you do wind up putting seating in where some of your parking spots are, which it is now, you would wind up forfeiting those tables or those chairs, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Correct. And I mean, and just so you're, I mean, we're not even close to capacity, right? I mean, so we're way under the parking requirement for the township.
I'm talking pre-COVID. You're under.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even let's talk about post-COVID. I mean, if the township restriction is a parking restriction, and we can't open our second floor because we have outdoor dining, that's not prohibitive. And we do the same thing when we talk with Lower Merion Township. I mean, we're not looking to add seats and add congestive issues to the neighborhood. We're just looking to replace seats in some other area.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to ask if anyone that hasn't spoken would like to speak. Okay. We'll go one more go around at 7:44. So if we can all do 2 minutes apiece for one final go around, and then we can hopefully end this meeting. So who would like to speak first? Okay. So Ms. Minicozy.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad to have that history that Patty and Rick provided. The process that happened a number of years ago was a model process in terms of the community involvement, broad community involvement. I wrote a newspaper column for 11 years and chronicled a lot of that as it was happening. So it was really well handled. The township did initiate having, that overlay and on all of that. So I think it was really a very successful process, and that there's just a couple of people who seem to be the main people that one person was speaking to. There were 100 people who were involved, and it was really a well-done process by the community. I'm sorry for my clock. So I wanted to point that out. I used to live on Wentworth Lane. Now I live a mile away. But now I have offices for the Community Breakfast Collaborative at Radnor United Methodist Church. So one of the things I was hoping that would be discussed tonight was any update about the church and what's going to be happening with that, that you all know of from your perspective, because it's an important historic church in our community since it was opened in 1780. And it's a polling place. It's in part a community center. So that was a question that I had.
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
do you all know what's happening with the Methodist Church lately?
Okay,
And
so
what-
yes,
as you're all thinking about that. And let me just add one more thing. Since it seems like this process is going to go on for some time in terms of having a continuing conversation, perhaps, it might be good to start some kind of a folder and to have some history
Sure.
of the earlier process included as well.
Okay. So I will
Township
talk
page.
briefly about the Methodist Church. Anyone that knows me knows that that place is very near and dear to me in the community. It is a treasure of Ward 7. It is a treasure of Garrett Hill. It is a community center. We vote there. I know AA had meetings there. It was once a vibrant place. It has unfortunately since, lack of a better term, shriveled up. Most of the Methodists in Radnor now go to Wayne. I was approached by a church elder and who wanted to do something to kind of reinvent it. And I am all for reinventing it. It may not be a religious place of worship as it was, but we cannot lose that community center, and I don't want to lose the history of probably one of the oldest churches here in Radnor. And we went on, and I brought Mrs. Winters in there, Roberta. I brought another community member, and I also brought Rick and Patty in there as well to give the history of the community. I know Roberta, as part of the League of Women Voters, could help out, as well as a school board member who grew up in Garrett Hill. And Mr. White, and we worked pretty hard on it. Unfortunately, the church, the building needed more work, needed just too much in repairs, where at this point the Wayne Presbyterian felt it was just not going to be in their wheelhouse to put that kind of investment in there. So I don't know what happens to it. My understanding, and I could be wrong, no one's in the business of buying a cemetery. The cemetery is one aspect, the annex is another, and the cathedral, the chapel, is another place. My fear is that, and it's a huge fear of mine, that if, God forbid, it gets sold, the chapel would stay as it is. The land could get sold and maybe developed. The annex is not historic, like the church, could get turned into whatever. And the township would wind up having to take over the cemetery and mow the lawn like we do in Wayne. And Mr. White, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe that we do deal with a defunct cemetery, and I think there's one in Gladwin. Don't quote me on that. So whatever we can do, whatever I can do to kind of facilitate, to just keep chugging along and finding opportunities to preserve that. That is, without a doubt, I think the most important. That and I know that Rick and Patty, we've talked about that, Emlyn Tunnel Park, because that's partly owned by the school board. So whenever I can bring up with the school board doing a land swap, I always do. I usually get voted down and told that it wouldn't make sense, but these are the most important things. A little bit of open space that we have in Garrett Hill and Ward 7 we have to preserve. So I am always open to ideas, and if you know anyone, please give me a call, give the manager a call, and we can talk to the Wayne Methodist Church, or if you know maybe another congregation that would like to move in, that would be great too. One more thing, I know that there was Reverend Howard, who's very well known in Garrett Hill. He looked at moving his congregation there because they are technically, I guess AME is technically Methodist, and that did not happen. So we're hitting dead ends, but at least we're still moving. So hopefully we can find an opening and we can preserve this thing, because it's without a doubt, if there's money in the bond, Mr. White, maybe we could buy it. I'm probably gonna get a no. Yeah, okay, I got a head shake no. So that's the best I can do that. Does that answer? Okay. Couple more questions. Anyone else that has not spoken want to chime in? Okay. I'm just going to wrap it up here. It is 7:51. Anyone here in the audience want to speak that hasn't spoken? Okay. So, no. So I'm going to let Mr. Mr. Joseph speak one more time. We'll go around. Please kind of limit it to 2 minutes, and then hopefully we can wrap this thing up. Mr. Smith.
So, hey guys, I actually have a suggestion here. What if all the people in the overlay district formed a group? Like the Mitchells, if you guys are open to being the business owners representing the business owners, and then we also have the homeowners as well, actually affected by the overlay. I mean, obviously we'd have meetings that everyone would be welcome to, but I think if it's affecting us, then maybe we should actually have us represent ourselves, right? So I think that would be a great benefit for the businesses as well as for the residents. And obviously, you know, no one else should have an issue with that, right? If they feel like that's rightfully who should be representing us. I mean, that's just an idea. I think it would be great. I actually did run that by a lot of the residents, and they're okay with it. Andrew Tillman at Garrett Hill Auto Service is on board with it. So if the Mitchells would be open to something like that, I think that'd be great. And at least we'd have like a fair hearing and a fair share this time around compared to last time. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. It's great to have new ideas and think outside the box. Okay.
One thing.
Okay, you're good. Are you able to? Nope, you're not. Just one moment.
Can you hear us?
I am
Sean?
going to add. Okay, can you hear me, Angie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you, Gene.
Hey,
Yep.
look, we are totally in line with this comment. So I think we all need to sit down and work together. You know, we've been here for 16 years. We're not looking to recreate things, and we're looking to work with the community. I think that's the best actually course of action. But my only comment would be that Garrett Hill district zoning was done before we bought our establishment, so before 16 years ago. And traditionally across the United States, most districts are redone in time. So I just think we need to update some things, but we are totally open to working with the community and you, Sean, and see what we can do to make some progress here and upgrade, you know, the Garrett Hill Conestoga intersection. I mean, look, I came down here in 1984 and it hasn't changed, and that's not good. That's a shame. And I think we need to make some changes here.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else would like to have a final comment? Okay, Mr. Sherby? Are you, okay, you're good?
Yeah, I actually unmuted
Okay.
myself.
I wish I knew that going forward. Okay. Is he now muted, or where did he go? Oh, okay, raised his hand. Okay. Rick and Patty, one moment. Hold on. I think you can. Rick, can you say something? Okay, we're good.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. mhm.
The ordinances were adopted in 2009. The Garrett Hill zoning ordinances were adopted in 2009.
Okay. Anyone else? Final comment? Okay. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I think this is definitely a conversation that we needed to have. It's been a long time coming. It's not ideal. COVID is not ideal, but the business of the township does need to move forward. So I appreciate everyone's opinions, no matter what side you're on. Hopefully there won't be sides, and there will just be a collaborative effort moving forward. So If you have any questions when it comes to the overlay, anyone watching this, I will put you in touch with Rick and Patty Barker, who spent a lot of time and with a lot of the community members, and that needs to be said. They do care about the community, and we all care about the community. I think it's just we have to figure out, to move forward or to make changes or not to. So I do appreciate everything that they have done and they're doing. The same thing with Roberta. Thank you. If anyone needs to get a hold of them, if they can't do it directly, come through me, and I will forward any kind of email or correspondence on to them. Anyone that wants to get a hold of me, my name and phone number, they're all over, but you can go to the Township website, and you can find that. So with that, thank you very much for attending, and have a good night. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.